Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to use Lawn Fawn's Mice on Ice for the main part of the images. And then also I have the gingerbread house stamp set and the toy store house builder from Honeybee, and that I'm going to use the tree. I also have Honeybee's Horizon Slimline borders, which I'm going to use a couple of them from there, and the bayou backdrop from Lawn Fawn as well for the pond part. So lots of mixing and matching going on today. So I like doing that though. It's nice, and that's where having a catalogue of all your stuff works really nicely, because you can kind of go through that, especially if you lost your mojo like I do often. So I thought I'd start out first of all with stamping the sentiment. And so this is going to be a slimline card, and I think this one for me was 8. This panel is 8.5 by 3.5. If you have A4 cardstock, which is slightly narrower, you could make it 8.25 by 3.5, and you'd still get pretty much the same size. But I'm using one of the sort of normal sizes. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. I think you can do whatever size you like for a slimline. It's sort of whatever fits your envelope. I think that's probably a good way of doing it. So whatever envelope size you've got, make your card to fit. That's what I do sometimes too. So I've just used all the sentiments I want to use and lined them up and buttered them up against each other. That's where Lawn Fawn stamps are really good, because they are made to do that. I used some anti-static powder tool on my cardstock and a Versamark ink, so it's a clear sticky ink. Inked it up the stamp and then stamped it straight onto the cardstock. And then I've used some Cosmic Shimmer. I believe this is the Snowdrop Pearl. Yep, Snowdrop Pearl. And then we'll also use the Brilliant Sparkle for the snowflakes in the background. I could have used a white embossing powder. My white embossing powder for some reason it doesn't work as well. For some reason, maybe I need a new one. So if anybody knows if the stuff goes off, that'd be good to know. But for some reason it doesn't seem to give a clear kind of image once it's heat embossed. I don't know why, but anyway. And then I've taken some of the snowflakes from the stamp set and just added them to a block, and then stamped them randomly all over the background, and then putting some of the sparkle embossing powder over the top. These are just embossing powders I've had in my drawer for years. I've just dragged them out and thought this will be really cute to put some sparkle. This is a Christmas card in the middle of July. And it's boiling hot, but it's I think at Christmas you need sparkly things, especially when it's a snow scene, so that worked really well, I thought. And then again, just heating up. I tend to heat from the back because I get a better a more crisp image. You don't have to, but I also don't know, my tool is it's a heated up tool from forever ago, over 10 years, 13 years maybe ago, and I don't know if it's just on its way out. Still gets very hot and it still works, so it's fine, but it's not, if I come in from the front side, I don't get the image as crisp, and it tends to blow the embossing powder all over the place. And then to go over that, now that that's cooled, you need to let that cool before you do this sort of thing. I'm using some tumbled glass in the distress ink, the regular ink rather than the oxide, and just using this is a makeup brush. You could use one of the blending brushes that are out there, and just blended that over the top. No rhyme or reason, a little darker on the top, sort of fading out towards the bottom, but no rhyme or reason, just straight on there, not trying to get it perfect either. And then the pond from Bayou Backdrop, I've used the same tumbled glass all over that, just to give it more definition in amongst the snow. It's essentially going to act as my ice rink, so that's why I have that in a blue. And then of course I have to spritz everything. This was normal. Was this regular cardstock? I think it might have been. just regular cardstock, or was this, can't remember if this was actually Bristol Smooth, but it doesn't matter, it still works really nicely, and it just gives a more texture in the background, just a bit more sort of snowy look to the background. I think it might have been regular cardstock. It was a while ago. So now I've got the trees that I've made or cut out from the toy store honeybee die set, and I've got forest moss that I'm going to use and peeled paint on the tree tops, and then some walnut stain for the bottom piece, the like trunk of the tree, that's the word. And I just picked inks that were slightly darker than the cardstock I used. So this is an easy way to get that sort of ombre look, is if you start with a coloured cardstock, a sort of paler version of what your ink is, and then ink the edges of it, it will give that look of that sort of ombre kind of thing. And it's an easy way to sort of get that blended look as well, so that you're not having to blend two colours together to get them to sort of blend nicely, because sometimes I blend two colours and they really don't work. So sometimes it's just easier and less time consuming. So the nice thing about this die set is that it's got, I think it's 4 layers of this like tree, and I think there's 2 tree trunks, either that or I've used something that's for something else but it looked like a tree trunk to me. And the nice thing is that I've used the top 2 pieces that are the smallest pieces to make my trees, because my scene is smaller. But if I put all 3 of those together, or all 4 of them together, you'd have this enormous tree. Now, in one of my Halloween videos recently, I did the same thing, but I made my purple Halloween tree, and that I used, I think, 3 of the sizes, and again it just gave it that extra length, so it made it look like a bigger tree, even though it's just 1 piece short, if that makes sense. So I've got little Christmas trees or little pine trees here, but it's only because I've used 2 of the pieces rather than all of them. And so this is a piece of Gina K's denim blue, I believe is the colour, cardstock, and it is 8.5 by 7, scored at 3.5 to make my slimline card. And I just picked a colour that I thought would work well with this. The cover is going to sit over the front of the whole card, so you'll see the blue on the inside, but you won't, and on the back, but not on the front. But it worked with the like colours in the scene. And then these are the 2 dies that I used, or cardstock that I cut using the Horizon slimline pieces, and I just thought you could have these as wavy, like hillsides and things like that, but I thought for snow this works really well as well. And I cut them longer, so that was handy because I can just trim off the edge, and then I can also put one slightly higher so that I can get more depth without using more cardstock. So if that's another sort of neat trick, is just to move one piece slightly higher, as long as you're covering the edge of that bottom piece, like the bottom edge of that first piece, then you won't even know. It'll look like that hole that piece was bigger than it actually was, if that makes any sense. And then I was going to use what was the offcut on the very bottom edge. In the end, I don't do that. And then this is just sort of trying to do my placement of all these pieces. So what I did off camera, I did stamp and colour using a no line technique. I'm not great with no line, which is why I didn't film it. And sometimes I just need to colour. It helps distract my mind when I'm not feeling good mentally. So that was another reason for doing it off camera. But I actually liked how they turned out, and so I used the dies that I happen to have, the coordinating dies for these ones, for the mice and eyes, and also the little lamps are from the gingerbread house add-on from not Lawn Fawn, honeybee stamps. So much mixing and matching here. So I decided to get the placement in now and sort of decide where I want everything to go. I had a rough idea before I even started, but I just had this vision of these little mice on ice, and they were just in this like skating rink in the middle of like a snowy area with lots of trees and things in the background, and that was sort of the original idea. So it's not obviously full of trees because I needed to get my sentiment in there and things like that, but I actually really like how this turned out. This is one of my new favourite cards that I've made this year. I don't like all of them. Well, I like most of them, but I don't love all of them, and this one I love. So with the lamps, I just had this vision again that there's kind of like, almost like what you see in movies of like in the middle of New York City, where you've got the ice rink in the middle of the city, and then there's, is it Central Park, where you've got like all the lamps all around and people on ice, and you know, in the ice rink, and it's really cold and snowy, and there's trees everywhere, and I love it. Never been, but but I love it. Although that's another part of the inspiration. So anyway, so just getting the lamps on, and then I have the two of them that are on the ice, sort of going, you know, sort of skating towards each other, one jumping up because she's so excited. That'd probably be me, although I'd probably wipe out quite elegantly on the ice. And then the other two, and this is more likely going to be my husband and I, him trying to drag me on the ice because, yeah, terrified, even though I like the idea. And so they're walking together towards the ice rink, or the ice pond in this case. So that's pretty much it. You could easily leave it where it is. I did decide to use a black Sakura gel pen, glaze pen, for the eyes, the nose. It just adds a little bit of shine and dimension, not major dimension or anything, but a little bit. And then also I will come in with a Nouveau, what is this thing called? Aqua Shimmer pen for a bit of sparkle. It's not, I don't know if I'm just running out, but it's just, it's not playing the game as well as it used to. So, yeah, just trying to get some of that on the trees, and you'll see in a minute I'll just go completely mad and just sort of scribble all over it. It just gives a bit of shimmer in the background and on the trees. Again, nothing major, just getting that shine and shimmery and sparkly stuff going on because it is Christmas, right? So, and then of course the glaze to go over the lamps, and so they look like glass. And then I decided that the entire pond had to be the same. This was obviously it takes up a lot of your glaze, so if you're happy to part with your glaze, then this is a very cool thing to do. I could have done it first and then pop them on top, but because I wanted to get the card finished, it was kind of an afterthought. I hadn't thought as far as this. You could also cut the pond out twice, cut it in a bit of like acetate or something, and try sort of find ways to stick that on there, sort of hide the adhesive behind the mice and things like that, so it looks nice and shiny. But something like a glaze, or the other one is glossy accents, that would work too really, really well, just to give it that sort of shiny pond icy look. I do something else in a second here, and I will show you that, where I actually add some Nouveau Pure Sheen Diamond glitter over the pond. Obviously you would need to leave the entire thing to completely dry, because before you start wiping off the excess glitter. So there is glitter everywhere on this card, although I do go in very sparingly with it. You will need to make sure it dries completely before you go in there with a brush to try and brush off the excess, or you will just have glaze all over the place. But I really like how this looked. It did change the shininess of it, so maybe I should have stuck that glitter on first and then glazed over the top. That might have been a better idea. But it's still really pretty, and it just gives the pond that sort of, I don't know, I know it doesn't sparkle as such, but when like an icy pond, it just looks like it's shimmery, sparkly. So yeah, so that's the pond for you. So you see the glitter everywhere. You do need to wait till it completely dries before you can get rid of that, which I do in the end, obviously. So I don't just leave it like that. But there you go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm really into my Slimline cards at the moment as well. I love the fact that there's so much more real estate that you can then build a whole scene on, if that's your thing, or even if it's not your thing, just there's more space to do it, and it's a nice shaped card. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you have joyful wishes through your season of Christmas and winter when we get there. And I will see you next time, guys. Bye.